Good morning. It's Easter. Well, my Easter started Thursday, the Thursday of the Easter. I usually read the Apology for Easter. I could probably read one of the other others where he dies as well, but I'm just going to stick to the Apology. And last year I read the Sickness unto Death as well. This year, but only like one. I'm already here. So only one chapter a day. Today, instead of watching The Passion of Christ, I will be reading The Paradox and the Passion of Thought. Mostly, though, I will be writing this Easter. As millions of others, I received an email from Jordan Peterson this morning, writing how pursuing meaning instead of happiness is the way to go. Find the adventure of your life, which ended in him advertising one of his projects as usual. It's all been very monetized, hasn't it? It's sad. But I'm sure they can justify it. I was thinking that's maybe why Franciscus, in the language I know, decided poverty. That's the only way to keep your intentions pure. It's all about the money. I do not know what effect my accusers have had upon you, gentlemen, but for my own part I am almost carried away by them. Their arguments were so convincing. On the other hand, scarcely a word of what they said was true. Maybe my accusations were false. I deeply desire my accusations to be false. I was especially astonished at one of their many misrepresentations. I mean, when they told you that you must be careful not to let me deceive you, the implication being that I am a skillful speaker. I thought that it was peculiarly brazen of them to tell you this without a blush, since they must know that they will soon be effectively refuted, when it becomes obvious that I have not the slightest skill as a speaker, unless, of course, by a skillful speaker they mean one who speaks the truth. If that is what they mean, I would agree that I am an orator, though not after their pattern. It is funny how memories that were so sweet become so bitter when you let it stay inside you too long. My accusers then, as I maintain, have said little or nothing that is true, but from me you shall hear the whole truth. Not, I can assure you, gentlemen, in flowery language like theirs, decked out with fine words and phrases. No, what you will hear will be a straightforward speech in the first words that occur to me, confident as I am in the justice of my cause, and I do not want any of you to expect anything different. It would hardly be suitable, gentlemen, for a man of my age to address you in the artificial language of a schoolboy orator. One thing, however, I do most earnestly beg and entreat of you. If you hear me defending myself in the same language which it has been my habit to use, both in the open spaces of the city, where many of you have heard me, and elsewhere, do not be surprised and do not interrupt. Let me remind you of my position. This is my first appearance in a court of law at the age of 70, and so I am a complete stranger to the language of this place. Now, if I were really from another country, you would naturally excuse me if I spoke in a manner and a dialect in which I had been brought up, and so in the present case I make this request of you, which I think it is only reasonable, to disregard the manner of my speech. It may be better or it may be worse, and to consider and concentrate your attention upon this one question, whether my claims are fair or not. That is the first duty of the juryman, just as it is the pleader's duty to speak the truth. So what's happening inside me while I'm reading this is I see the assembled people, and I see Plato sitting there, hanging on the lips of Socrates. How much of this was actually spoken by Socrates and how much was invented by Plato, I don't know. I wonder if there are actual records of his trial, of someone else who also wrote of it. I feel the tension in Plato's body. Watching his master desperately trying to defend himself. The proper course for me, gentlemen of the jury, is to deal first with the earliest charges that have been falsely brought against me, and with my earliest accusers, and then with the later ones. I make this distinction because I have already been accused in your hearing by a great many people for a great many years, though without a word of truth, and I am more afraid of those people than I am of Anytus and his colleagues, although they are formidable enough. But the others are still more formidable. I mean the people who took hold of so many of you when you were children and tried to fill your minds with untrue accusations against me, saying, "There is a wise man called Socrates who has theories about the heavens and has investigated everything below the earth and can make the weaker argument defeat the stronger." So you see in here, when I first encountered Socrates, before I encountered Socrates as symbol, I did see him as just one more sophist. And you see here that he has been accused of being just another sophist, because this is what sophists do. They can make the weaker argument defeat the stronger. It is interesting that they call him a wise man, though, but maybe that's the sophist. The sophists were wise men, weren't they? Oh, history so repeats itself. What was will be again. There is nothing new under the sun. Plato himself I think, if I remember the letters correctly, struggled with this whole idea of supposedly having theories about the heavens and everything below the earth. I don't know that he didn't have that, but he was very adamant in not having put it to writing, so that people could only learn it from him directly, I think. I'm not sure. But he was very, I think, it's probably the seventh letter. The seventh letter is the most famous one. That he said that you will not find anything of Plato in anything that I've written. Which is, of course, not true. As I'm reading this, I'm wondering how much is Plato and how much is Socrates. Because it is very fluent language. And Socrates claims not to be able to do that. But Plato. I'm gonna stop there. I don't know how I'm gonna mark these ones because I've marked it before. I hope you have a meaningful Easter.